Living on one income in America. Month-by-month breakdown. 2026. Marcus makes $70,200 a year. Before anybody calls that a good salary, let's be specific about what it means in 2026. In Columbus, Ohio, which is not a particularly expensive city, Marcus takes home $4,340 a month after taxes and employer healthcare premiums. His rent on a one-bedroom apartment outside the city center is $1,480. His car is 4 years old. He bought it used. The payment is still $398 a month. By the time Marcus has paid the things he has already committed to, the rent, the car, the insurance, the utilities, he has $1,794 left for everything else, for the entire month. That includes groceries. That includes healthcare copays. That includes the emergency fund that is currently at $800 and has been at $800 since March. This video is not about whether $70,200 is enough to live on. It is about what living on any single income in America actually looks like in 2026, month by month, number by number, with the categories that financial advice almost never includes. The average American household now spends $6,545 per month according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That is not a luxury number. That is housing, food, transportation, healthcare, and the ordinary costs of an ordinary life. And it is 25% higher than it was in 2020. If you are living on one income, by choice, by circumstance, or because you are trying to figure out whether it is possible, these are the months. Here is what each one actually costs. Why one income is harder than it looks. Here is why single-income living is structurally harder in 2026 than it has been at any point since the early 1980s. The median household income in America is $83,782 per year. That sounds adequate, but the key word is household. That figure assumes, in most cases, more than one income. When a Pew Research analysis separated the data, the median individual earnings for full-time workers was approximately $57,000, a number that produces a take-home pay of roughly $3,900 to $4,200 per month, depending on state taxes and benefits deductions. On $3,900 a month in take-home pay, the average American household's $6,545 in monthly expenses is impossible. It is not tight. It is impossible. The math produces a deficit before a single discretionary dollar is spent. This is not a budgeting failure. It is a structural gap that has widened every year since 2020. U.S. prices are cumulatively 25% higher than in 2020 according to CNBC's analysis of BLS data. Wages have not kept pace. The gap is real, and it is getting larger. Living on one income in 2026 is not a budgeting problem. It is a structural math problem. The budget only works if you understand the structure first. Take-home pay, not gross salary, is the only number that matters. January is the month that proves the fresh start feeling is psychological, not financial. Marcus's take-home, $4,340. His January expenses track to approximately $4,180. That leaves $160 going to savings. He calls it a good month. What he does not immediately account for: his car insurance renewed in January, up $34 from last year. The national average auto insurance increase in 2025 was 11.3% according to Bankrate. His Amazon Prime renewed automatically, $139. He joined a gym January 3rd, $40 per month. These three items represent $213 in new monthly or one-time costs that he did not plan for because he was thinking about the year ahead, not the month already here. January ends with Marcus $53 in the red against his mental budget. Not catastrophically, but the emergency fund did not grow. The drift has already begun. The month most people budget for is the idealized version. The month that actually arrives includes every annual renewal, every insurance adjustment, and every optimistic subscription that felt reasonable at the time of signing. February is the month that shows you your fixed cost floor. After rent, car payment, car insurance, health insurance contribution, phone, utilities, and subscriptions, Marcus's committed monthly costs total $2,773. That is 63.8% of his take-home pay gone before he buys a single grocery or fills his gas tank once. The remaining $1,567 has to cover groceries, $480 average for his household size, gas, $200 average for regular driving, healthcare copays from a January follow-up appointment, $140, and an unplanned car maintenance charge. Tires he knew needed replacing but had been postponing, $380. February ends with Marcus having contributed zero to savings and having pulled $193 from what was a barely constructed emergency fund. His running total in the fund, $607. It was $800 in October. It is moving in the wrong direction. The fixed cost floor is the number that determines whether single income living is possible, not willpower, not discipline. The floor. March is when the pattern from the first 2 months either compounds into a manageable rhythm or begins to spiral. For Marcus, March is a good month. No unexpected expenses. He canceled the gym membership, a $40 reclamation that felt psychologically significant. He meal prepped aggressively, dropping grocery spending from $480 to $390. He drove less, gas spending down to $170. March ends with Marcus having saved $380, not the $500 he originally planned for a monthly savings target. But the emergency fund is back above $800 for the first time since October. He calls it a recovery month. What March reveals, though, is the amount of active management required to keep a single income budget in positive territory. 2 good choices: cancel the gym, meal prep more, produced $380 in savings. 2 bad weeks: a larger grocery run, more driving, 1 unplanned expense, would have produced 0. The margin is structural. It does not improve without either a raise or a reduced fixed cost floor. Single income stability requires active management every month. It is not a set-and-forget budget. The margin between positive and negative in March was 2 decisions. That is not a cushion. That is a tightrope. April is tax month. For Marcus, it produces a $380 balance due. This is not unusual for single filers without dependents. The standard deduction for single filers in 2026 is $15,000. Marcus's taxable income after the deduction is approximately $55,200, taxed at 22% for the portion above $48,475 in the 2026 tax brackets. The math is not particularly complicated, but the resulting $380 owed did not appear anywhere in Marcus's monthly budget because he assumed his withholding was accurate. It was not. April ends with Marcus's emergency fund back down to $800, the exact number it was in October, 7 months earlier. 7 months of active management and careful decisions, and the safety net is in exactly the same place. This is the structural reality of single-income living that financial advice rarely states plainly. You are 1 unexpected month away from resetting the progress of the previous quarter. Not because you did anything wrong, because the margin is thin enough that 1 bill you forgot exists is enough to consume the surplus of 2 careful months. May is the first month in the calendar year where nothing unplanned happens to Marcus. No annual renewals, no car repairs, no tax bill, no insurance increase, just the regular expenses, managed well. Marcus's grocery spending stays at $390. His gas spending stays at $170. He contributes $420 to savings. May ends with the emergency fund at $1,220, the highest it has been in 11 months. Marcus feels, for the first time this year, that the math is working. But what May actually demonstrates is not that single-income living is sustainable. It demonstrates what single-income living looks like when the unexpected things do not happen. May is the ideal month. The rest of the year has been the reality. The challenge is not replicating May's outcome. It is building enough buffer that the other months do not reset it. A good month on a single income tells you what is possible when nothing goes wrong. The budget is not designed for what is possible. It needs to be designed for what is probable, which includes at least 3 or 4 months per year where something costs more than expected. June is the halfway point. Time to run the actual math. Marcus planned to save $500 per month for the first 6 months of 2026. Planned total, $3,000. Actual total, $2,110. The difference, $890. Across 6 months, that is an average of $148 per month in unplanned costs that consumed planned savings. At this rate, Marcus will end 2026 with approximately $4,220 in savings, assuming the second half of the year performs like the first half. His target was $6,000. The gap is not a catastrophe, but it is the difference between an emergency fund that covers 3 months of bare expenses and one that covers 2. The practical implication, if Marcus loses his job in December, he has approximately 2.1 months of financial runway before he is in genuine distress. The target was 3 months. He is one unexpected half year away from that target being dangerously inadequate. There are exactly 3 levers that materially change this math. Not tips, not habits, levers. Lever 1. Housing. Moving from $1,480 in rent to a room in a shared house at $950, a realistic option in most mid-sized American cities, frees $530 per month. That is $6,360 per year. It doubles the monthly savings capacity. It is the most powerful single decision available on a single income, and the one that requires the most willingness to compromise on a lifestyle signal. Lever 2. Transportation. Eliminating a car payment by paying off or buying out the existing vehicle is the second most powerful lever. Marcus's $398 per month car payment, below the national average of $767, represents $4,776 per year. Driving a paid-off $12,000 used vehicle instead of financing a $28,000 newer one is the difference between saving $380 a month and saving $780 a month. The car payment is often the quietest budget drain because it feels fixed and unavoidable. It is not. It was chosen. Lever 3. Income. A $10,000 income increase, one significant raise, one promotion, one negotiation that lands, adds approximately $580 per month to take-home pay in Marcus's tax bracket. That is more than the entire monthly savings surplus in the current budget. Income growth is the lever that makes all the other numbers easier. It is also the lever over which individuals have the least immediate control, which is why the housing and transportation decisions are the ones to make first. The single income budget is not a discipline problem, it is a lever problem. 3 levers move the math materially: housing cost, transportation cost, and income level. Everything else is noise compared to those 3. Marcus ends 2026 with $4,380 in savings, not the plan. Better than nothing. Directionally correct. What the year actually taught him was not that one income is impossible. It taught him that one income requires knowing where the 3 levers are before the year starts, not discovering them in the middle of June when the math has already been set. Housing, transportation, and income. In that order of immediate actionability. In that order of impact. If you are living on one income right now, or planning to, the number to start with is not the salary. It is the take-home pay, then the fixed cost floor, then what the floor leaves behind. Everything else follows from those 3 numbers. And the only question worth asking is which of the 3 levers you can move before the next January. 3 things before you go. Drop a comment right now and tell me, which month hit closest to where you are? Or are you currently doing this, living on one income? And what's the number that keeps you up at night? I reply to every comment in the first hour. Next, if this video showed you a number you already knew in your gut but hadn't seen written out, subscribe. Send this to one person in your life who is trying to figure out whether a single income is even possible.